Good evening and welcome to our channel that helps you get into the nitty-gritties of getting into your choice of B schools abroad through this route of GMAT. So, what is it that is there anything that you happen to have in mind that you want to ask? If yes, don't forget to drop it in, and then we'll go ahead and talk about it as we move forward. So I have your chat right in front of me. I keep looking at it periodically, and we can go ahead and discuss the queries. So I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, Harvard was considered the mecca of education. And even today, I mean, there are these 8 Ivy League colleges in the US, and Harvard is one of those. So it may not necessarily always retain the top spot. It has always been in the top 5 colleges of the world. So let's go ahead and see what we can do in order to get into Harvard Business School from India. So let's start. So first up, how many people can make it to Harvard? So if you look at the batch size, it is somewhere between 900 to 1000. And how many people apply to Harvard? Well, that number would typically go from 9,000 to, there have been years when it has been around 14,000. So let's take an average. So can I say that if you look at the number of applicants and the number of people who are selected, you'd find that the ratio comes out to be around 10%. So normally I'd say it is somewhere between 9% to 12%, but it is a nice round number, and we can definitely go ahead and work with this. Now, to a lot of people in a lot of nations, this is a number that can appear daunting, that, oh my God, only 1 in 10 makes it. But we are Indians, we believe that these are spectacularly favorable odds. Come to think of it, you've heard of people preparing for this exam called UPSC when they want to become a civil servant. So in 24, there were around 13.4 lakh people who appeared for the UPSC exam, who applied for it, and we had around 1105 seats. So basically what we are saying is that less than 0.1% makes it. Now compare that to a college where 10% of the applicants make it. That's a luxury, right? And not only that, you'd also notice that not only the fact that the equation is favorable, you would realize that the process can also be by and large decoded. The process is also more or less fairly stable, and thus you know what exactly you need to do. So if you have Mr. Unique, Roshan, Roshan, acha bhai. Is it possible to get into a top B school abroad without LORs? Normally, no. Most of the top B schools would typically ask for LORs. Mr. Unique says, does Harvard offer an MIM? Not really, but they do have a 2+2 program. So see, when you say that you want to opt for MIM, MIM is basically for people who happen to have a work experience between 0 to 2 years. So what Harvard says is that, hey, if you are an amazing individual, but you don't have work experience yet, then I would not want to miss out on you. So what they happen to have is a 2+2 offering, where you can apply to them even as a fresher. They give you a confirmed admit if they find you worthy. And then the deal is that you work for 2 years and then you come back and join the college. So I'd say in a way it is an even better deal than MIM. So let's see. Third year, what should I do to improve my profile? Okay, Ramakrishna, we will go ahead and talk about it. So at the end of the day, we want to be one of those top 10% people. So what can we do in order to maximize our chances of getting an offer letter from Harvard? And we are talking about specifically Harvard today, but the general theme will be applicable to every college, every B school that you'd go ahead and apply to. So what are the things that you need to do? First up, apply in round 1. So most of the colleges abroad would typically open multiple rounds of shortlisting process for their college. Now they say that we do not, that the colleges would typically tell you that they're not biased against individuals who apply for later rounds, but then the fact remains that if you apply in the very first round, the probability of your getting a confirmed admit is higher. So if I talk about Harvard for the batch of 28, the intake of 26, 28 में हम ग्रेजुएट होके निकलेंगे. सो राउंड 1 डेडलाइन जो है वो है 3rd of September 2025, and in case somebody misses out on this deadline, then of course there is a round 2 deadline 2 which happens to be on 5th of January 2026. तो राउंड 1 के रिजल्ट्स टिपिकली दिसंबर में आ जाएंगे और राउंड 2 के रिजल्ट्स मार्च में आ जाएंगे. देयर आर दीज डेट्स दैट द कॉलेज हैज ऑलरेडी announced. So if you are somebody who is thinking of applying, please make sure that you stick to this particular deadline, because delays are going to get costly. What else? Anushka, 1 year, what chance? Anushka, let's go ahead, discuss it, and I think the session will automatically give you the answer, and I'll specifically highlight when I reach the work experience component. Mr. Unique, CGPA is quite low. How low? How low? And that would depend on, and that would tell us whether we should target a particular college or not. So, second thing, get a great GMAT or a GRE score. So, when it comes to Harvard, they accept GMAT scores, they accept the GRE scores, but this channel is called GMAT by Physics Wala. So I'll be focusing on the GMAT part of it and be ignoring GRE, but you can definitely apply through GRE as well. And in some cases, you may also be asked to write TOEFL or IELTS or Duolingo's Business English test. Okay. So what do we really mean by a great GMAT score for Harvard? So you know that GMAT scores are valid for 5 years. So in case you are somebody who did write GMAT and so the average score of the previous batch happens to be around 730, but that's the average. The range is 540 to 790. Now, what do we mean by that? If you look at all the people in the batch of 26, you would notice that there was somebody who got in even with a score of 540. And then there are also people who got in when they had 790. So let us say you happen to have a score on the higher side. Does that guarantee admission? No, because a B school would rather look at you very holistically and then take a call. So, but in case you are missing out on some other components of your application, सिलेक्शन प्रोसेस में कुछ एरियाज जिनको कॉलेज वेटेज देता है और आपको लगता है कि वो आपके अभी उतने अच्छे नहीं है, जैसे somebody was talking about low CGPA. So then you need to cover it up elsewhere, and GMAT gives you that opportunity to cover it up. But these are old scores. From this year on, GMAT, they are conducting focus edition. The scores in focus edition are different. So an equivalent of 730 in the focus edition is around 685. And the range that we expect, obviously until the batch begins, we would not know, but keeping this score in mind, the range of focus edition scores that you should see in the batch should be 515 to 785. I think 85 is also a little on the higher end, maybe around 775. So if you are still yet to write the GMAT, this is the score that you are going to target, and the higher the score, the better it is for your candidature, although no score will guarantee an admit. Oh, absolutely. बिल्कुल. ये जो आप बात कर रहे हैं ना, what is happening currently in the US, I am going to talk about that as well. So that's the second thing. So first up, apply. Make sure that you apply in the first round. Second, when you apply, there are multiple things that you need to submit. One of those things that you need to submit is your GMAT score, and you know what kind of scores to target. Additionally, you are also supposed to send answers to some profile based questions, and the colleges abroad value these very highly. So in the recent past, Harvard has changed things. The number of questions whose answers are expected, that number has gone down. For that matter, even the word limit has been curtailed. So if you want to apply to Harvard this year, your application is supposed to have answers to 3 questions. The first is a business-minded essay where the word limit is up to 300 words, and these guys take it very seriously, so you cannot exceed it by even 1 word. Okay, so up to 300 words. So here is the topic for the business-minded essay. Please reflect on how your experiences have influenced your career choices and aspirations, and the impact you will have on the businesses, organizations, and communities you plan to serve. So a 300-word answer on this topic. Then the second one is a leadership focused essay where the word limit is 250 words, and here is the topic. What experiences have shaped who you are, how you invest in others, and what kind of leader you want to become. अब देख रहे हैं एक वो certain amount of maturity, certain amount of experience चाहिए in order to write this answer. Okay, and then finally a growth oriented essay, once again with a 250 word limit, and here is the topic. So curiosity can be seen in many ways. Please share an example of how you have demonstrated curiosity and how that has influenced your growth. So answers within the word limits to these questions, and the word limits have been shortened. That makes your job tougher. You know, you need to fit in every impactful idea that you had within this time limit, and therefore Ramesh says, sir, is it recommended to take professional help for LOR and SOPs? Absolutely no problems, although SOP is no longer a part of the process now in that sense. But for LORs, I mean, ideally, the person who's recommending you is the one who's supposed to write it. So SOPs में इनमें help ले सकते हैं आप. LORs में तो I think you should let the people decide. बाकी इसके अलावा we can go ahead and talk about it in detail in our group, right? So let's see. 7 MIM MBA. अभी कितना पढ़ाई करेगा रोशन? एक चीज कर ले भाई, कोई बात नहीं. MIM के बाद MBA, I'd rather advise that you do one of these two things. And if you're a fresher, work and then apply for an MBA. These programs abroad can be pretty expensive. So, but maybe I'm just looking at it from my POV, right? So if you ask me, I may not have $100,000 extra to spend on a course, and that can, but if you have that kind of money, then that can of course skew the way you look at things. Although I know if you look at the Indian MBAs, they are practically MIM equivalents. They take in freshers, right? So most of these PGDMs, PGPs are MIM equivalent. I know people who have done it from here and then went on to do it from abroad, particularly when the college that they went to here in India was not a very expensive program. So that's probably going to be a better bit. Okay, so profile essays. Thereafter, fourth thing. Now, in order to write solid answers to those questions, you need to actually have a good profile. So when you talk about a good profile, what do you even mean by it? So your profile consists of 5 odd things. So first up is your academic performance. So once again, going by the batch of 26, the average GPA there was 3.69. Now in the US, it is on a scale of 4. So it's an equivalent of, but if you look at the range, it would typically start from 3.3 and then go pretty high. Okay, so if I convert it into Indian schemata, we are basically talking about, say, a score of 77% plus, right? So anything below that or below 75% can at times create some doubts in the mind of the admission committee. Additionally, the academic background that you have would also matter. So if you typically see, almost 80% of the batch belongs to these 6 branches, out of which I'd say around 42% belong to these 3, and another 40% would typically belong to the other 3: engineering, math, and physical sciences. So that's almost 82% of your batch, or 80% of the batch, to put it simply. The rest of it would obviously come from people who are from arts and humanities background and social science background. So on the face of it, it appears that if you belong to these areas, your probability of going there is higher. But the truth is, when you bring in that diversity to the batch as an art and humanities student, even that is valued a lot. But then it does not mean that your background would give you an advantage or a disadvantage. Do keep in mind that B schools would typically compare you against others from a similar background. So if you stand out within that crowd, your probability will be higher. So this is something that I think you would not really be able to do much about at this juncture though. Then the next thing is co-curricular or extracurricular activities. So colleges specifically look for activities through which you can show your leadership skills, team skills, and organizational skills. Then colleges abroad are also very fond of athletics. So in case you've done something special within the domain of athletics, particularly in those sports for which Harvard University happens to have a team, then that also goes ahead and improves your chances. Thereafter, you of course have extramural activities. So see, co and extracurricular activities are those things that you do within your college. Extramural activities are things that you do outside of your educational institutions, outside of your offices. So in these activities too, the focus will be on more or less the same kind of things, but extramurals would typically, things like community service, volunteering, etc. would belong to that area. And then finally, of course, work experience. Now, the more challenging an assignment you had, the more learning you typically have, and that eventually translates into superior profile essays, better performance during the interviews, and thus that matters a lot. But if you look at the batch profile for the batch of 26, you would see that the average work experience that they have there is 5 years. And frankly, if you have less than 3 years of work experience, I would normally not ask you to target this particular college, because with less than 3 years, you at times might face a slight disadvantage there. And then a majority of the people who joined the college, around half of them came from consulting, VC, private equity or tech. So almost half of it came from that background, and then the rest of the areas, sorry, marketing, etc., contributed to the rest. So Anushka, absolutely yes. Diversity in a B school admission is always an advantage. Then Siddharth says, sir, could you please conduct a similar session first? Absolutely, yeah, we do that too. So that's basically the idea behind the profile. And as I said, this is something that is going to be more or less common to all the B schools that you're targeting. So somebody who's asking me about, yeah, what can I do to improve my profile? Here are the domains. Try to engage in activities that allow you to show managerial ability along with these different skill sets. Then the fifth thing is the rest of the documents. So make sure that your entire docket is ready. So what are the rest of the documents? Transcripts, which we popularly call our mark sheets and degrees. Then you are supposed to submit 2 letters of recommendations. Now, whom do you take these letters from? Whom do you go to for your LORs? So basically, go to an individual who knows you well, who had an opportunity to see you work and develop. So it can be somebody from your college. It need not be a dean or HOD. It can even be a professor with whom you worked closely and he has seen your growth. In case you've been working, it can be somebody you reported to. So essentially, somebody who has seen you at work closely, and that person should also have something nice to say about you. So these 2 things are basically going to be helpful. Then you are also supposed to send them an updated resume. So that's basically, so GMAT scores plus profile essays plus these things. Then finally, the 6th and the last thing is the interview. So whenever you are shortlisted, you are put through an interview. So make sure that you go ahead and prepare for it very thoroughly. If you are an absolute beginner, here are 3 questions that I want you to start your preparation with. The first is, please introduce yourself. Most of the B schools nowadays don't ask this question. Yet in terms of preparation, it is a nice starting point because it allows you to focus on and figure out the areas that you're most comfortable talking about. So start with that in terms of your preparation, although the chances of that getting asked are pretty low. Second question, why do you want to do an MBA and why this particular college? The third and the last question, why should you be selected? Right? So start your preparation with these, and then you notice I've said plus. Why plus? Because there are some additional things that you need to prepare for. What are those additional things? So prior to GMAT Focus Edition, GMAT used to have a writing section. But if you are somebody who is applying through the Focus Edition, the writing section is no longer a part of the process, and Harvard would expect you, if you are shortlisted for the interview, they would want you to go ahead and appear for the GMAT Business Writing Assessment as well. It is basically a 30-minute assignment. In this assignment, they give you a paragraph which contains an argument. You are supposed to analyze and evaluate that argument, and then you are given a band, okay, the score of 0 to 6. So a score of 0 to 3 is a problematic score. 4 is okay. 5 and 6 will be absolutely all right. And then they also happen to have something called post-interview reflection. So once you are done with the interview, you are supposed to send a 300 to 450 word post-interview reflection within 24 hours to the college committee. Now, what is their goal through this? What is it that they are trying to see through this? So, इसमें मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि formal essay वैसे नहीं है, but it is still an opportunity that you have that allows you to make your case one last time to the admission committee. So, ये तीन चीज़ें आपको इसके लिए भी साथ साथ प्रिपेयर करना है. सो बहुत सारे लोग GMAT के टाइम पे ना इसे इग्नोर करने लग गए हैं अब, बट देन आप वो राइटिंग वाले पार्ट को, इफ यू आर अ सीरियस एस्पिरेंट, यू वुड नॉट ignore it. So that's the selection process, and here is this one question that a lot of people would have in their mind, and that is, भाई ले भी रहे हैं, अमेरिका में चल क्या रहा है, सोच भी रहे हो, क्या कर रहे हो? So yes, we know that it is a time of political turmoil. Yes, we know that there are these frequent suspensions of visa appointments in countries like India. But then let me give you a quick background. So a college like Harvard, a university like Harvard, along with a lot of universities, they are allowed to attract international students. Okay, so the international students can come there full time, or they can be exchange students, on the basis of which these colleges are allowed F1, F and J category of visas. F1 and J1 is typically given to the candidates. F2, J2 are given to their spouses and their children. Okay, so at the beginning of June, the Trump administration said that we are removing their credentials to offer these visas. But then Harvard approached a court in Boston. The court immediately put a stay on that. And the latest development that we have as of now is that the oral arguments have been heard. Harvard wants the court to issue an injunction that says that until the final verdict is out, they will be allowed to take in international students. Okay, so that is their stand. The court is supposed to come up with their next hearing. The court is supposed to say something on the 23rd of June, which is practically 3 days away. So is there uncertainty, particularly with respect to Harvard? Absolutely yes. So now that basically, so should you go ahead apply? Should you consider these colleges? Well, that depends on your risk appetite. So normally when I look at risk, I don't think of risk purely in terms of risk. I would think of it in terms of the likelihood and the magnitude. So I look at these two things and then take a call. So what is the likelihood that the government in the US will succeed in taking away their ability to enroll international students? I'd say it is very unlikely. Yaar. But the magnitude of risk is fairly high, particularly in terms of the money that you spend. So in that case, of course, by September, a lot of things will become clear. The judiciary there works fairly fast. Most of the cases are decided within 6 months. So hopefully before the admission deadline, you will anyway have that clarity going. And that's basically it. So that's a call that you need to take. We are available for a discussion. You want somebody to hear you out, maybe sit down, talk. We can fill that in person over one-on-one sessions. But then I think I have given you enough hints, so that should at least allow you to take a call. So Rashmi says, do we have to take IELTS as well? See, if your graduation is not in English medium, then it is not necessary. If your graduation is in English medium and English is not your native language, then the college says that it is better if you write IELTS or TOEFL, but it is not necessary. So if your GMAT verbal score is great, I think even if you don't have it and your graduation is in English medium, you should still be all right. Okay. Anushka says, can you elaborate on the post-interview reflection? Interview stage तक पहले बाकी सारा application करो, फिर इसकी भी बात कर लेंगे. Okay. So that's basically it. And this is where I would like to leave you for tonight. And here is a message that I have for you. It is not our abilities that define us, but our possibilities. So do not rule yourself out from this race. हाँ, अपना सेल्फ बिलीफ बना करके रखो. वो अगर सेल्फ बिलीफ, परसेवरेंस है, एफर्ट डालने वाली एबिलिटी है, लगातार मेहनत करते रहने की, तो यार अप्लाई ज़रूर करो. यू शुड एटलीस्ट टेक अ शॉट. To select you, to reject you is always in the hands of the B schools. Let them do their job. Our job is to apply in good faith, and that's precisely what we would want to go ahead and do. So that's it from me in this particular session. I'll see you in the next one with details about anything else that you want. So somebody wants to know more about Stanford, we'd go ahead and do that. I'll try and see if I can bring in somebody from the alumni group of Stanford or Harvard, and then see if they can go ahead and add more value to our journey. So that's it from me tonight. Have a nice evening, and I'll catch you guys soon. Take care. Have a great time ahead.